Alright guys, and welcome back to the channel. Right, in today's episode I want to continue building this ultimate fast road C20XE engine. So in the last episode we basically built the bottom end, as you can see here. We put the crank in, we put the steel con rods and the Amiga high compression pistons. Since then I've put a couple of little bits on, alternator brackets, starter motor, nothing serious, just a couple of little bits, boring stuff. In this episode I want to put the head back on, torque it down, I want to fit the new cams and I want to make it look like an engine again basically. But before I can do a lot more, I need to take this top off because I'm incapable of staying clean in this garage. Now these jumpers and t-shirts are available to buy. If you're interested, let me know in the comments below or direct message me on Instagram. They're for sale, I think £35 for the hoodie and £20 for the t-shirt. I've styled them before, you've probably seen them. If you're interested, just drop me a comment. Right, let's crack on with this engine build. So, as this is an early style C20XE, it uses the early style head bolts, which look like that. So it's a male headed Torx instead of a female headed Torx. Now the main difference between these two is the earlier one is longer. The later one comes with a built-in washer, the earlier one doesn't. And that doesn't mean that you don't need a washer, you do. However, no one really sells them, they're quite difficult to get hold of. I have managed to source them, I think they're about 4mm thick. These were from QED, so do not forget to use the washers and don't use spring washers or anything stupid like that. You want to use the correct washer. So let's get the head on. So this cylinder head, as you can see, it's just been skimmed, valves have been reseated and checked over, everything looks good, and we've also given it outside a lick of paint. It's ready to go straight on now. So I'm also using lube on the head bolts. Now, I wouldn't normally do this, but it does come with a kit. So I'm going to trust them, right smear, and I'm going to start from the centre and work our way out like normal. So the bolts want torquing to 25 Newton meters, and then 65 degrees, 65 degrees, 65 degrees, wait 15 minutes, and then a further 30 to 45 degrees. Let's do it. So I start the first stage using a small torque wrench as they are less cumbersome. I start each stage in the centre and work my way out as per instructions, and use a bigger torque wrench after the first stage for more leverage. So before we put the cams in, we need to put the lifters in. Now I've soaked the lifters in petrol for a couple of days and I've cleaned them all out, so they should be good. So let's stick them in and put the cams in. As you can see, look at all that crap come out. So that is like literally dirty oil and petrol pouring out. They felt pretty good before, but they feel amazing now. These really springy, just like they should be. Shouldn't be tight whatsoever. If they are, they're full of crap. They want cleaning out. And this method has never failed me, so I'd recommend it. Plenty of lube again on everything. Nice clean lifter, and as you can probably see, squishes in and out nicely. So we're fitting a QED Q38 cam. This is the most aggressive cam they do that doesn't require solid lifters. So this is the exhaust cam. And in it goes. And this is the matching inlet cam, again at QED cam. It just goes in like so. Right, so before I can put the cams down properly, I need to make sure the engine's timed up. So I need to make sure cylinder 1 is at top dead center. So I'm going to put the crank pulley on, make sure it's bang on, and then make sure these are in the correct place. So, because if I don't, basically, if I tighten these up and it's in the wrong place, the valve's going to push down and touch the pistons, and that'll damage the valves and probably destroy it. So the crank pulley is a little cut out here, and there's a little cut out in the bottom of the oil pump. They need to line up. So basically, so the little cut out there needs to line up with the little cut out there, and that's perfect. And the cam pulleys want to point up. Right, let's tighten these down. Cap 11, cap 6, cap 1. And then we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And a top tip from me, I just recommend putting the cam seals on now because it's a bit easier. Lube them up, put them on, and then when you clamp it down, they're in the right place. You don't have to try and knock them in. I apply the M8 washers and nuts and slowly wind down the caps. I try and do this evenly to avoid putting too much pressure in one area. Once nipped, they're torqued to the manufacturer's specs using a quarter drive wrench. I then clean up the gasket area with panel wipe. Right, next job, I want to put this oil breather and dipstick tube in so then I can put the cam cover on and seal all this up. So I've used a new gasket at the bottom and I've also just put a smear of gasket glue on it to help it out basically. These engines are renowned for leaking oil, so I want to help it the best I can. This is fixed into place with 6mm Allen M8 bolts, then the silicone connected slides on and clamps down with a Jubilee clip. It's now time to fit the cam cover. So again, I've used a brand new gasket and I've also put a bit of sealant around it. Hopefully it will hold oil. So as you can see, this is covered in a 2K texture paint. Now I didn't do this, the owner of the car actually did this. This isn't my car, I'm building it for someone else. I think he used U-Pole Raptor. Yeah, I'm really impressed with the finish. Really hard, looks really good and gives it a really modern kind of like sports car, performance car feel. So yeah, should stand the test of time hopefully. And once again, we're using brand new stainless steel hardware. These 5mm M6 Allen bolts are fitted with a washer and wound down with an impact driver and finally torqued by hand. This needs doing evenly and carefully to pull down the cover squarely. Once tight, I fit the breather hose and the Dizzy blanking plates plugged with the QED kit. Right, next job is to move on to the timing belt end, and we'll start off by fitting the water pump. Now, with these engines, you need to make sure you're fitting the right water pump with the right cam belt setup. So basically, this is an early round tooth belt setup. The later ones are what they call a square tooth belt setup, but not interchangeable. The belt will probably go on, but it will not work properly. Do not do it. You will damage your engine if you're not careful. If you look at this cam pulley, you'll hopefully see these are nice round teeth. If that makes sense, the later ones are square teeth and not compatible. So the water pump goes on before the rear timing cover. It should just line up with that. Right, next job's the rear timing cover. Right, now the cover's on, we can start putting the belt on. Now I do have one of these missing, there should be one there. I'm going to try and find one, but for now I'll just put a normal M6 Allen bolt in. And it's the guide, followed by the tensioner. And a brand new Continental belt. Now the belt's on, we're going to use this, which sets the tension of this. So you essentially slide this on here. And then tighten this up, and that should be the correct tension. So just tighten this up. Timing marks are aligned, as you can hopefully see here. I'm going to turn it over a couple of times. Everything's lined up. Chuff with that. Now what I'm going to do one last time, I'm just going to put this back on there. Slacken the tensioner off. And just make sure it's as tight as it should be. Now I think once upon a time these did have a spring in them. But from memory, this is a long time ago, I'm pretty certain the springs used to have a habit of jumping off and ruining the belt. So I think now the method is not to have a spring and just use this tool to set the tension. I could be wrong though. If I am wrong, let me know in the comments. But I'm pretty certain that's right. So we're just going to check all the bolts. Turn it over again for good measure. And perfect. Really happy with that. Now, eagle-eyed viewers will probably notice I actually did this slightly wrong. So I've just come back to it off camera. So basically these little locking nuts which go through the outer cam belt cover were put in the wrong place. So there should be one there, one there, one there. I put that one there and that bolt there. So I did it wrong. So I've learned the error of my ways. I haven't got anything missing. I'm just an idiot. Right, so now the timing's done. I've just put this belt cover on. And I've just loosely placed the plug cover on and the Ashley manifold and done it look good. I'm pretty impressed with it so far. So next job, I'm going to start putting the throttle bodies on, mocking things up and just seeing how things are going to work. I think the easy job to do next though, just put the thermostat on. So we'll do that now. So we'll take this back off as we don't need this at the minute. And I'm just going to clean this area up a little bit because it's got a little bit of paint on it. We don't want that. So this is the start. As you can see, I've already cleaned it up and painted it. Got a brand new gasket to go on. Like I said, I'll just put a little bit of grease around here and we can bolt it up. I'm just using 2 brand new Allen bolts to tighten it up.
I then fit the rear coolant pipe and hose using 2 M8 bolts and washers.
Right, as you can see, this little tail is a problem because that should go to the bottom of the inlet manifold. And on the throttle bodies, we don't have this. So I'm going to have to do something about that. So I might just cut this off here and then put a plug in it. I'm not really sure. As I said before, this isn't my engine, so I'm going to speak to the owner, see what he reckons.
These are direct to cylinder head bodies, so they just slide onto the head. There's no actual inlet adapter or anything like that. They bolt up using standard M8 nuts, just like the original manifold.
So straight away, we've got a little problem here. The throttle will only go so far. This arm here is catching the body on either side. So I'm assuming you have to cut these down, but no one's actually said that, which is interesting. But we're learning as we go along with this kit. Now, injector-wise, we're using the standard blue injectors, which are a bigger CC than the earlier cream injectors. Now, I've been told these will be suitable. They should be okay for it. If they're not, we will update it when we get it on the rolling road. But for now, we're going to use these. Now, I'm going to get them refurbished first, but today I'm just going to pop them in and just make sure everything fits okay.
These just push in, but I always use lube on the O-rings. This just makes it effortless and removes chances of ripping the seal.
And then we're using a Jenvey fuel rail, which needs cutting down to size. So it comes in 2 sections, has a connecting piece, and then it needs just cutting down to make it fit perfectly. Here's the link rod. So I need to measure how deep it is in there and here, and then cut this accordingly and slot it in. So the overall gap is 57 millimeters. Stop on there is 12 millimeters. So we want 57 plus 24. Yeah. So the overall length wants to be 81 millimeters. And here's the cut down piece. I'm just going to file the end out. Make sure it's nice and clean. No burrs. Does say to just file a chamfer on the end, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. And there we go, finished piece, nice and smooth. A nice little chamfer on the end, nice cut.
Again, this just pushes into place and is sealed with lubricated O-rings. The rail is pushed on and fitted with 4 M6 bolts, spaced with 20mm spacers, and again, these are supplied with the QED kit.
So that's the fuel rail done and looking nice. Now obviously the velocity stacks need to go on this end, but we do need to put the backing plate on, and I'm just basically mocking everything up for now. This isn't the final thing. These will probably come off at some point. I want to get the injectors cleaned anyway, but I just want to make sure everything fits before I go to put it in the car. With that in mind, I'm going to try and fit the alternator.
I push in the bushes into the brackets and then feed the long M8 bolt through the bottom of the alternator and mount, and then put the top M8 bolt in.
Right, don't worry internet, this isn't the final outcome. I'm obviously going to replace the wire, clean things up, probably put new hardware in. I just wanted to make sure it works. I wanted to make sure it didn't touch. And as you can see, that's going to work nicely. Now I need to work out how on earth all this throttle linkage works, because I ain't got a bloody clue.
One eternity later.
So I'm now on the near on impossible task of setting the throttle linkage up. Now, oh dear, bits falling off. There's lots and lots of brackets in the kit, and I'm just looking at a picture trying to make it work. So I'm going to screw it all together and see if it works.
I can only describe this as adult Meccano without instructions. After messing around for a while, I managed to make it all work. I then tightened all the M5 bolts and nuts using an Allen key and an 8mm socket. A frustrating but rewarding job.
So there we go, that is that. So I'm assuming this somehow connects to the throttle body, and I believe this bolts underneath, and that's the return spring. And the cable goes in there. That's obviously all adjustable. Very good. So I think I've worked it out. I think these studs go through here, bracket goes under here, the throttle linkage goes here, and it connects there. I'm just going to try it. So the instructions, well, I don't really have instructions, but what we do have is very, very vague. It does come with these studs, what happened to fit this, and that is the correct spacing for the bracket. Also comes with a couple of little spaces like so. So I think these go behind here, like so.
The bracket bolts on with two M5 8mm nuts, and the linkage marries up to the bodies with an M8 ball joint. The connecting rod did need shortening to operate properly, but we did get there in the end.
And just another thing I did forget to mention earlier, I have recently just had this outer pulley skimmed down. So what I've done, I've cut the outer V off, I've cut it off with a grinder and then put this in a lathe and just cleaned up the face like so. So it's a little bit lighter now, the pulley, plus you've got a little bit more chassis clearance for the Vauxhall Nova. Right guys, I think I've done as much as I can in today's video. In the next video, we will be receiving the Vauxhall Nova to put this engine in. So if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more. See you later, bye bye.